Hello guys, my name is Alessandra Ramos Martinez. I want to apologize in advance for my accent and pronunciation. I hope you understand me, but if not, I'm available if you have any questions. I want to talk to you about Cerro Maravilla. That's a case that happened here in Puerto Rico. Some of you might know about this case, but I'm sure that most of you have not heard of it. So I'll give you a summary and then I'll present the ethical dilemma and the approaches I think they could have taken to justify their actions. All of this happened on the night of July 25, 1978, so tomorrow will be exactly 45 years from the incident. These three people here kidnapped a taxist named Julio Ortiz Molina and ordered him to take them to Cerro Maravilla in Ponce, Puerto Rico, where there were several communication towers. Among them were Carlos Soto Arribí and Arnaldo Dario Rosado, who were pro-independence activists, members of a group called Movimiento Revolucionario Armado, which translates to Armed Revolutionary Movement. Those are the two on the right corner, the photo on the right corner. The other one is Alejandro González Malave. He was an undercover cop. He was posing as a member of the group and they were protesting the imprisonment of Puerto Rican nationalists convicted of the 1950 assassination attempt on President Harry Truman and the 1954 Capitol shooting. These three men were planning to burn down the communication towers. Upon arrival at Cerro Maravilla, the state police ambushed them and shot at them. Arnaldo and Carlos died in the ambush. During the shootout, the undercover agent got a minor gunshot wound and the taxi driver wasn't hurt. Afterward, the officers said they acted in self-defense. The governor at the time, Carlos Romero Barceló, called the officers heroes on television and he also declared that they acted in self-defense and stopped a terrorist attack. The taxi driver that was kidnapped stated then that the three men were still alive when he was removed from the scene, but two of them were severely beaten. In response to these statements and public pressure, some investigations were opened. As a witness to the Senate Investigation Committee in 1983, Miguel Cartagena Flores, a detective in the Puerto Rico Police Department's Intelligence Division, said, "I saw four police officers point their guns at the activists kneeling in front of them. Then I heard 5 shots." So as you can see in the images, this case raised a lot of awareness from the public. On the left image, we can see a photo of one of the two guys that was killed in the incident, and on the right photo, we can see some people protesting against Carlos Romero Barceló, who was the governor. That sign basically says Romero guilty, and they were asking for him to quit, to resign from the position as a governor. So that's essentially what happened on the case, and that's the information that we have. So the ethical dilemma that I have here is, was it ethical for the undercover agent to lead these two young men into an ambush by the Puerto Rican police? So I want to present you some of the approaches that I think that could have been applied to the situation, and then I'll give you guys my conclusion of if I think it was ethical or if it wasn't. Okay, so from the utilitarian approach, it is likely that avoiding a terrorist attack would have been a greater source of happiness for the country than the sadness at the loss of these two revolutionary young men. Stopping a terrorist attack will always be something that brings happiness to any country. But even today, in 2023, Puerto Rico infrastructure is terrible. So a terrorist attack like this, setting several communication towers on fire, will probably have left the country without communication for a long time. In other words, if the undercover agent hasn't complied with his mission, the country probably would have faced tough times, which would have led to an overwhelming sense of sadness. So I think this approach could justify his actions. Approaching the situation from Immanuel Kant's theory, I think that it's understandable that the undercover agent acted out of duty. In his role as an undercover, he was supposed to provide information that could prevent this kind of attack. He was acting in line with his duty as an undercover cop. But were these two men used as ends in themselves? Not at all. According to the story, the agent devised, he was the one that devised the plan and got them the weapons. So I think he was using them as a means to an end. Puerto Rico has never been a big fan of independence. The majority wants statehood or remaining a colony of the United States. That could have been a way to send a message of power to these groups, to these activists, and what better way than using these two young people to do it? So, using this approach, I think maybe it will have flaws because, yes, he was acting out of duty, but he was using these two young men. So, I don't think that we could apply this theory entirely to the situation. I also wanted to apply the just intelligence principles. For just cause there was an imminent threat and the agent was able to confirm it, they were planning to burn down the towers and it was as real as it gets. So there was in fact a real threat. So that could have been sufficient just cause to take action. And for authority, as agents of law and order, it's their job to stop this attack at all costs. So for me, I think that they represent sufficient authority to do what they did and to assess the situation. For right intentions, I think that it's debatable because we will never know why they really did it, but they were justifying their actions because they were stopping a terrorist attack. So this would have been the justified, good, and correct thing to do. So, believing what they said, there was right intentions to their actions. Proportionally, as I mentioned earlier, 45 years ago, turning on fire some communication towers would have devastated the island's communications. So the damage they intended to do was greater than the damage that the police caused. For discrimination, they were targeted even before they got there. Although the taxi driver was kidnapped and this could have represented a harm for him, he wasn't injured before, during, or after. So the only ones they targeted were Carlos Soto Arribilla and Arnaldo Arias Rosado. So that was discrimination as it should have been. But last resort, no. It wasn't the last resort. I think that the terrorist attack could still have been stopped if they had just been arrested. So I do think that there were other ways to manage this situation and that there were other resorts that could have suited best for in a better way for this situation and in a most ethical way. So, was it ethical? Do I think that this was the ethical decision to make? No, I don't think so. I think that there were other ways to assess this situation in more ethical ways. And it's simply because these two young men were disarmed, beaten, and executed while kneeling. These undercover agents and the police actions were not ethical, they were just vicious. They didn't represent it, after being disarmed, they didn't represent any harm to the police. So it's not my intention to get into a political rant, but here's my take. I want to express how do I think that things happened and why do I think that this happened. So, as Governor Carlos Romero Barceló belonged to the New Progressive Party, which wants Puerto Rico to get statehood. And if a terrorist attack had been allowed as a protest against some people imprisoned for attacking the President of the United States, we would have looked like terrorists in front of all the United States, leaving us with less chance to ever be granted statehood. My opinion is that they tried to send a message of fear to the revolutionary independence movements and a message of heroes to the United States, but it backfired. Romero Barceló lost the next election. The undercover cop was assassinated by another revolutionary group, and the police officers who were involved got jail time. In conclusion, they never brought more happiness to the country than sadness. Every year, on July 25, Puerto Rican nationalists and independence activists gather at Cerro Maravilla to honor Carlos Soto and Arnaldo Darío and to defend and celebrate Puerto Rican independence. It is not my political beliefs that influence my opinion, it's just an impartial assessment of the situation. Comparing it to the theories, it's simply unethical that these two guys of 19 and 25 years were executed by the police and that they even tried to cover it up afterwards. So thank you. I'll be looking forward to your feedback. Let me know what you think and if there's another approach that you think will have suit will have suited the situation in a better way. Thank you.